G'day folks, back out in the shop again. You can see behind me the Silverado is in its normal place. Just kidding, it's not that bad. It's been pretty reliable lately. Anyways, one of the things I got to deal with, I'm just sick of dealing with it, is the power steering on this thing. The pump in it is junk. I swear I work on it more than I drive it, but you know, it's paid for, so I can't complain too much. Anyways, let me show you what's going on here. Yep. And that fluid's full. But when you rev it up, that don't sound like a healthy pump. And at idle, it steers worse than that old 50 Merc with the manual steering. It's been getting progressively worse, and it's at a point now where you're trying to park the darn thing and you got to 2-foot it, 1 foot on the brake, 1 foot on the gas, and give it gas just to get it to turn. So I'm going to deal with this today. We're changing out the power steering pump. Alright, so at this point here, we got the fan shroud off, the intake hose off, the belt is now off. All you do here, put a 15 mil on the tensioner, pull it that way, take the belt off. You can see it's sitting right here. You don't need to take it all the way out, just off the pulleys that you got to get at. Now, we need to pull off the alternator wiring. Oh, so that means disconnecting the ground wire anytime you're messing with things. And then all these bolts here for this plate. I know it's dark. Well, folks, the Silverado never fails me. I gotta tell you, it always starts and runs and gets me where I gotta go, except for the once. Well, twice. Okay, so it doesn't always get me where I need to go, but it does kind of do it sometimes. Anyway, I pulled it in to, as I said, do the power steering pump so that I didn't stop fighting the steering everywhere I go, and yeah, left a great big puddle on the floor. I'm like, huh, what is that now, I wonder? Immediately smell antifreeze. Now we're draining it because the water pump is leaking. So I had to order up one of them, and that's gonna hopefully be here today at, you know, premium dollars, of course, because I got it apart now, so I kind of need to fix it. Fortunately, it's a lot of the same stuff because the fan shroud, the fan, and you know, that kind of thing's going to come off the belt. So, yeah, one big job. I was going to order the part, but it was like 9 days to get here from online, so they can go to hell. $250 for a water pump. So that's awesome. So it's not much different, really. Again, belt. The belt's got to come off, the fan shroud's got to come off, the fan's got to come off. You don't need to do the fan to do the power steering, it's just nicer because it's kind of in the way. So yeah, next thing we're going to get off is that pulley for the power steering down there. You need a removing tool for that, of course. Same for the fan. There's a tool that you use for pulling the fan off of these. I gotta find that, that's around here somewhere. Okay, so there's the tool you need to take these things off. You need to get this off because there's 3 bolts in behind here that you can't get with the pulley in the way. All right, it's hard to see because I haven't got the fan off, but all you do is put a wrench there, hold that end, and then turn this one in. Okay, folks, there's the power steering pulley off. Not that hard a job. You need this tool. Obviously, you'll never get it off without. Forget it. It's not going to happen. That piece will go on there like this. You got this split collar. You notice there's 2 different size openings. You want the smaller opening. Now what you're doing is you're putting it around the slot right here. And the tool, like that. Alright, and it just goes on like so. Then you take this collar and you put that over that slip part. Alright, that's only there to keep these from falling off. And then you just tighten this screw down while holding this screw. Alright, and it's going to take a bit of doing. They don't come off easy. Pure press fit. There's no keys, shafts, bolts, nothing, because this is the cheapest way they can make it, so that's why they do it that way. There's a separate tool to put them on. Lovely, right? Okay, so with the pulley removed, you can now see the 3 bolts that you could not get before. Now you just start ripping out bolts. Okay, I decided I'm getting the alternator out of my darn way because I already unplugged it anyways. To get that plug off, there's a little ugga-dugga thingy here, which you kind of reach in behind. Then you take a 10mm nut off, which gets you to that wire right there, which I already moved out of the way, which is part of this stupid harness. Then you take out big long bolt here, big long bolt here, and then ugga-dugga it out with a Scooby-Doo here. Something like that. And you can get rid of this piece of junk. So if all you're doing is the alternator, that's all you need to do. Pretty easy to get the alternator off. You can see here the bolts that had to come out for the bracket. You can see the bracket is now loose. I got one way down the bottom there. But these 3 guys come out. From up top. And you got the one down underneath, way down the bottom there, I still got to get here. And I already loosened up these guys, so I may as well drop them into the floor. There you go. Once all your bolts are out, you can just pull that silly thing out of there. Yeah. Now I can get my power steering pump, my water pump, everything real easy. Alright, so you can see they're full access to the water pump now. Alright, last bolt we got is one that goes in right there. You can see the bracket here. To get at that, you pretty much have to fight around 17 hoses, 22 wiring harnesses, a cable or 2, piece of metal, some sharp things, and yeah, you can get that out. Alright, I just lifted the power steering pump up where I can see it a little better. There's that bracket where that small bolt goes into the side of the block down there. Okay, so it's not that bad, but it's a pain in the ass with all that junk down there. So in my case, I've got hydro boost, so I have 2 return lines. You can see that's my hydro boost return. There's no vacuum booster on this one. So you may only have 2 lines to contend with. You got your pressure line, which is a fitting here. You're going to need a flare wrench for that one. Don't go out with a regular because you're going to strip it. Then you got return, and in my case, a second return. Those are just held on with clamps. They're low pressure. High pressure, low pressure. Okay, there's the line out. Nothing fancy to that. In my case, of course, as typical, this was spinning. 25mm is what goes on there to hold that sucker so it won't spin. See, it's loose now because it spun, but just so you know. Okay, water pump. Upper rad hose, just the clamp, take it off. Rear heater hose, front heater hose, lower rad hose. All just clampy things. Get them out of the way, get them off. So now for the water pump itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just finished unbolting the water pump. Just 6 little bolts, 10mm, and the whole pump will come off. Okay, so the next thing you got to do is get this fan off the pulley. And you're going to need 2 tools. You're going to need a big honking wrench. This is 1 7/16 inches because I don't have whatever the metric equivalent is. I think it's like a 32. You could probably use like a pipe wrench and adjustables, but they're a lot bigger and more cumbersome. So if you got a big wrench, it'll do the job. Now for this, you can see the idea, there's pins on it. I made those because the ones in my kit don't fit this, which is remarkable to me why it doesn't fit a Chevy. I mean, especially a Silverado, like, what is it, one of them rolls off an assembly line every 17 seconds or something stupid. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to put that holding device in 2 of the holes. There's 4, pick your poison. And hold that, right? You could set it up against something or have a friend hold it. Jam your wrench on here. Give it a little bit of ugga-dugga. There you go. Okay, got it? Yep, I got it. Okay, so that's all there is to it. It'll pop loose pretty easy. If it's being stubborn, don't be afraid to get the old blue wrench out here. Okay, you can see it unthreading real easy. Don't drop it because these blades are plastic and they will break if they land wrong. That's all there is to that. All right, a couple other things we've got to get off of here. The thermostat housing and the tensioner, because they go on the new water pump. 10 millimeter and 15 millimeters. Now these bolts threading into aluminum are oftentimes seized on, so you never know. Oh, they're coming out pretty good. All right, so your tensioner. Now's a good time to check your pulley. Make sure your bearing's not toast. That squeak, a lot of people think it's the belt. Most often it's actually the bearings in these pulleys. Don't hit that with a hammer. You can break it, it's only aluminum. Okay, there's your thermostat, the housing. You should be replacing that gasket there. Oof, that's pretty corroded. Let's go put it on the new one. Alright, so we got our new water pump here, all our bolts and everything for the power steering and brackets and all that stuff is here. We got to clean this surface. Alright, just an O-ring in here. It goes on your thermostat thing. The last thing we want to do is put all this together and have leaks. Okay, so on your thermostat, there's a rubber seal, and right here is a little vent tab. And the point of that is it lets air out so you can bleed your cooling system. If you put that down, you're not going to bleed it properly. So that's why there's a rubber O-ring here with this little indexing tab on it. And that goes right there. Right, so if you put your thermostat in, you'll notice that that little vent is at the top. We're just gonna lightly ugga-dugga these. I'm gonna torque that in a minute. Tensioner just goes right back on, nothing to that. So all we got to do now is throw that back on. We can put the fan on in the car or out of the car. Doesn't matter. Katie's home from school and she's cleaning up the water pump gasket. Make it spotless, Katie. Make it spotless.
I'll try.
You'll try?
Yep.
What did Yoda say?
What?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yoda would not be happy with you. He'd make you climb a tree and you lift rocks or something. Okay, we just mocked up the new power steering pump here into the bracket. Make sure it was going to work. You never know. And it doesn't come with the studs in the back, so we have to take them out of the old one. And again, they're a generic thing, right? They make them for a dozen different vehicles, so depending on which way it mounts, some don't use this bracket. Some use mounts that are on the back, whatever. You get the idea. You gotta pull your studs out. Those will just go in the new with this bracket. There we go. Nut on the bottom. There was no nut on the top one, which I found a little curious, but yeah, I didn't invent it. That's where that goes. Anyways, I think I'm going to put the pump, hook up all my hoses, and then I'm going to mount it back to this aluminum bracket because it's just easier to work with when I don't have to fight with this thing. Okay, we're just putting the new O-ring here on the high pressure line. There's the old one, I just took it off. So the O-ring just sits on here like that. Hands are so greasy. There we go. So the new O-ring like that. The old ones will get flatted out and you can actually see that's not really an O anymore. It's more of a taper now, just by the way you cranking it into the back of the pump. Alright, the easiest way to do this is to grab it like this when it's not attached to nothing, and you can start it real easy. Not have to worry about cross-threading it or nothing because you got all this play here. And you don't have to tighten it right up yet because you want to know the position of this line. So we're going to go ahead now, set that down. Do yourself a favor, put your pressure line on like this before you put the pump in. You can't get a wrench anywhere on that thing from underneath. And you sure as heck can't get it from up top. And once you got that, you can leave the return lines. You know, they're easy to get on. You can go ahead and bolt this sucker back in. Always something in the way on these cars. Alright, we're going to leave that a little loose so that we got some play here. Alright, so we got lots of play here to get things lined up with the mother of all aluminum brackets here. A couple of these big long honking ones in. The whole thing's in place. Alright, we're leaving everything loose until we start all the bolts. Alright, now we're going to do our return lines. First thing I'm going to do is wipe some of the 3 pounds of grease off of them. They are dirty from this leaky old pump. There's 2 lines. One points towards you and one points up. This little short one goes on the one that points towards you. That one goes up to the brake booster. That's the one that points straight up. Yeah, I know they sell the right tool. I've been using needle nose for 40 years to do these darn clamps. That always works. Like that. All we got left to do now, obviously, is to put the pulley back on. All my lines are on and tight. You just spent $250 on a power steering pump. They'd give you a new cap, but no. Heaven forbid. That's another $49.99, I'm sure. So to get our pulley to go back on. I have in the past heated them up and jammed them on that way, but this is the right tool here. Okay, it's just a big long bolt with a spinny thing in the middle. And that's going to go like that and thread into the front. Like that. Make sure your pulley's kind of started. Okay, so the bolt you don't want to turn. We're turning this centerpiece. It's an annoying thing because the wrenches always want to come off. Okay. There we go. And that is how you get the pulleys to go on. Okay, so because these gaskets, once that is in there, you can't tell if they're even on anymore. So what I do is I just use a little bit of silicone on the water pump side and I stick them to it. Now that's still moving, but I want to work quick here. I'll put 2 bolts in here like this, and then we're carrying it over and putting it in. And the reason I chose the top ones is because I can actually see them once the water pump starts to go in. Now we'll jam our other 4 in. So started by hand. Now we'll torque them. 264 inch-pounds, which is 22 foot-pounds. Depends on what torque wrench you're using. Same thing for the thermostat housing. Alright, we're going to jam our alternator back on now. We only took it off just because it makes it easier when you're wrestling with that bracket, not to have an extra 10 pounds on there. Okay, here's a little persuadatron. There we go. That one's probably in too far. Nope, we're good. Alternator's on. And plug. Right there. Boop. And then we got our field wire here. I have done these when I was young and stupid, where I just turn a nut and don't hold the back one and break the thing right off the alternator. So I got this 10 millimeter, it's a cheap Chinese one. Because it's so narrow, I ground it down so that I can actually get in there now and actually hold that so I don't spin it and rip the back right off the alternator. Because you definitely don't want to be cranking on this and not holding this end, because you will break that little stud. I've seen it so many times. People come in with that alternator with that stud broke off, and you end up having to put a whole new voltage regulator in it. Diagrams for how your belts go. You got to match up with what you got. Like, that's a hybrid. That can go right, you know where. That's a diesel. I don't know what that is. That's some pathetic little engine, and that's ours right there. And yeah, that's usually the state of them. You can barely read them. This goes around the water pump backwards, like that. That's what it looks like. Now, what you're doing is put the 15 mil on here. What I like to do is go around the power steering first. Pull on your tensioner. Boom, belt's on. Alright, there's your 3 hoses. Rear here, this is the one that's got a Y in it that goes to the filler tank. Clamps are on. Boom, 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 done. Alright, the fan, nothing to that. Just line it up and spin her on there. Now it's only going to go so far till you got to use your big fancy tool again. 2 pins in. 1 7/16. And just give it a snug. That's all there is to that. Okay, so for your fan shroud, you got 2 bolts here on the top. You just screw into the radiator cradle here and here. And your 2-piece, you use these push pins, right? You just slide that into the hole, push down the little button, that's all. Alright folks, she's all back together. We're getting some heat here on the upper rad hose. We've bled the cooling system. It's probably going to drop a bit more. It's just now warming up, so we'll keep an eye on the level. Power steering, filled that up. We didn't drain, obviously, the entire system, so it wasn't a matter of having to bleed it, but when we added it, you still got to cycle a wheel left and right a whole bunch of times. Lift up the front, jack up the front wheels to make your life easier, because it's a bear to pull that thing on these ones with the power steering not working yet. Let's see how it is now. Okay, all right. And it's actually quiet now. It used to just scream when you turn this wheel. There we go. Perfect. Just like the day it left the dealership. That's a lot more dents, rust, scratches, and mud. Anyway, folks. I can hear myself. Anyways, folks, Katie and I are going to go for a test drive here. And we'll let you know if anything goes wrong, because we'll be right back here. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. Someone's first time driving a pickup truck. It's just so small in there. Teeny tiny. Oh, look, even a kid can steer it now.